So today we are here to show you the ML Pro, the next generation in light source technology for the laboratory, which features both visible and non-visible wavelengths of light source to support your examinations for a wide variety of evidence types. Today we're going to be using our Crime-lite evidence sample kits to help get you started in using this technology. So let's take a closer look at the ML Pro to teach you some basic tips and tricks to help you get the most out of it. First of all, we have our ML Pro head unit. And if we turn it to the underside, we can see we have a number of different light sources, including flood, spot, and side lighting for different types of applications. Underneath, we also have our laser clash detectors and our LED aligner, which helps us to improve our working distances when using our ML Pro unit. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at our ML Pro using some of our samples from our evidence sample kit. If you pick up your sample and turn over to the back, you will find that each sample will have a set of light and filter combinations which are specific to that sample. Here we're going to take sample Q, which is one of our simulated blood samples. We'll place that underneath. On our main screen, you have access to each individual light source, working your way through the white, UV, through the visible part of the spectrum, and then through into the infrared. With this sample, we'll move first into our white light source, and here we can see our sample in our live view mode. If we want to get closer, we do have optical zoom capabilities on the right side of the screen, which allow us to get a closer look at our sample. On the left side of the screen, you have your autofocus button and then also a manual focus once button if you need to refocus your sample. At the base of the screen, you will have access to a light source menu that allows you to navigate between the different light sources, and then also a filter menu as well. Here in our sample, we can now see in the infrared our simulated blood sample. What we can do here is we can take an individual capture of this particular sample. Moving back into our white light source, it might be useful as well for us to take an overview sample for us to use later on in our report generation. We simply click the overview button and that image will now be waiting for us in our report section. If we switch to a different sample here, we have our evidence type G, which is a simulated body fluid sample. Now you can switch to a different light source through this menu here, and we're going to switch to a blue floodlight, and we can start to see our simulated body fluid fluorescing. We also have the option here to change between a flood and into a spotlight, which can concentrate the light and help us to see our sample a lot easier. But what other options do we have? In our main screen mode, we have an option to scan our samples. Now this might be useful if you're not really sure what evidence you have or what evidence you're looking for on your substrate. The scan for samples will run a scan through all 8 individual light sources and produce an image for each of these light sources. These will then appear in our gallery at the end. If we go back to our main screen once again, your third option, using this arrow on the right, is to actually use our preset scan. Now our preset scan includes different evidence types, and based on our research, they are the light and filter combinations that we believe work best for this type of evidence. If we take sample D, which is our fibres evidence, and place that underneath, We can click on our fibres preset. This time it will run a scan very similar to what we've seen before, but with these specific light and filter combinations that work for this evidence type. And once again, these images will now appear in our gallery. We have a couple of options here. We can review our individual images, click on an image and press review. We have the capability for digital zoom, so we can analyse our images further. We also offer the ability to annotate our images with either text or different styles of rectangular, elliptical, or line drawings. And we also have a comparison feature as well. So we can take our samples and, for example, pick 2 different images and move into our comparison mode. Here we can compare images side by side in a 2-way comparison. Or we can pick a 4-way comparison image and pick a number of different samples to analyse together. Once we have our sample images, we can either create a 2-way or a 4-way comparison image, which we can use later on. Click Store Combined, and that creates our brand new comparison image. So finally, let's have a look at our report generation feature. So we're going to use our simulated blood samples from earlier and move into our report function. You have 4 tabs along the left: Report, Captures, Sample and Overview. First, we have our Overview tab. Next, we'll move into our Captures and we'll have a look at some of our images from earlier in the gallery. And once you have your final image or capture, you can gently just move this over the top of your overview and place it in any location. Here we have simply created a capture of our simulated blood stain and moved it over the area of the capture which is most relevant. We can add in sample notes. For example, here we could add in if we'd done a presumptive blood test and the result that we have added. To finalise the report, we simply add in a case name or number, our exhibit name or number, and then we can simply add in a username as well. We can change our overview into a simple line drawing function, changing the threshold until our sample comes into view. However, if you're happy with an overview image, we can click Save and our report is generated. Here you will have all of your case details along the top, your overview image with our individual sample, and then underneath you will have every sample image capture that you have taken. Along the centre you'll have all the lighting and filter combinations you have used, and anything like your sample description, like with our presumptive test, will appear in the box to the right. So this was a basic how-to guide to get you started with your ML Pro using our Crime-lite evidence sample kit. But why not try a couple more samples from your kit now? We hope you've enjoyed the video and you found it useful.